Hey everyone, welcome back to CryptoCache. Thank you so much again for joining me here. What do you know? Bitcoin is pumping pretty hard with no reason whatsoever, at least not from what I can tell anyways. This just happened roughly 15 to 30 minutes ago. So if you have any news or updates on what happened and why this is occurring, please let us know. The simple logical way to understand it is that we bounced off of the CME gap here essentially after filling majority of that or retesting that range, and just the price took off and no one's trying to sell yet. That's kind of the concept there, but we're going to take a look at that and much more. Be sure to stick around. We got some important stuff here today. Obviously, hitting the like button, commenting below, deeply appreciate you doing that. Everyone who does that so far, I want to say thank you again so much for being just a wonderful part of my life. You've been helping grow the channel. That is awesome. And welcome aboard if you're new. We're going to look at some order block stuff here today. Maybe touch on the macro structure. I've reinforced that a few times. Obviously going to dive into the CME gaps here and more specifically touch on these this dominance factor here where money is just flowing way fast out of altcoins, or sorry, out of stable coins and going right into altcoins and Bitcoin. So it's a good sign, right? Generally speaking, we want Bitcoin dominance and the price to go higher for Bitcoin. That usually shows strength for altcoins. Okay, and that's kind of what we're seeing so far. Liquidation, the whole 9 yards. We're going to cover everything here. Be sure to stick around. We got a good one today. All right, folks, before we jump into the backend data, I got some important updates for you, just really quick to kind of give you a heads up for our community members here. First of all, quick congrats on some nice profits here. We took some profit on a long for Solana just now. That price action pumped there to that 196 range. But prior to that, of course, we took a short with Bitcoin, a really tight short from 110.9 down to the 107K range. And then also, of course, a Chainlink short. That was a 20x scalp trade, hit 69% in 14 hours. So it was pretty awesome little stuff there. Anyways, the reason I'm pulling this up for you here is just to kind of reinforce the simple fact that we have 5 slots left remaining here for October or Dumptober sale. Uptober sale, I don't know, however you want to call it. At this point, it is essentially a sale for this month, and it's we're running out of spots available. So just know I have a limitation on how much I like to sell, mainly based on the simple fact that our community gets, kind of, I wouldn't say crowded, but we've got a lot of people in there, and I want to make sure we're not overdoing it so I can have better, one-on-one attention for you. So that's kind of the concept there. Anyways, feel free to message me if you have any questions. Otherwise, you can register cryptocache.tech. But if you want to take care of that October sale, or take advantage rather, you do have to message me direct. It's a crypto pay only scenario. Okay, so just heads up on that. Anyways, take a look at the backend data here with order blocks. The order blocks are going kind of crazy right now because Bitcoin is, of course, pumping. We can see a significant amount of delta here, essentially a lot more sell orders in the 113 to 114K range than there are buy orders below. So we're getting closer to that resistance range here. Once more, that 115 to 117K more specifically is that heavily gutted area. But we'll look at that on the charts, and I'll explain more so about that in a minute. I'm not going to touch on the double top here because there's a good chance that that's going to be invalidated. So just kind of quick summary here is if we close below 108.5K this week, then we're probably going to continue a bit lower, or that would kind of validate this downtrend. For right now, it's holding pretty strong and we're looking pretty good. And we have a very strong bullish engulfing candle on a 3-day time frame. So all these things kind of combined tell us that we're seeing a shift in momentum. Now, are there firm indications that we're done pulling back? Not quite. No, I wouldn't say that. But this is a pretty good sign nonetheless, okay? Touching on CME gaps in the center here, we have Ethereum, which is fully filled from this past weekend. Bitcoin, uniquely enough, even though it looks like the price did hit that level on the regular charts, the CME chart, of course, tells us that there's still a little bit left there. So it doesn't mean the price is going to pull back for Bitcoin here and we're going to rake down because of that, but it does tell us that that's still technically unfilled. So just something to be mindful of. Now, before we jump into the Bitcoin dominance chart here, I want to kind of just bring to your attention kind of what this means for us with Bitcoin dominance increasing and the price of Bitcoin going up as well. Generally speaking, it can be favorable, but it can also be kind of a false positive. So we can jump into our education section on our Discord and just kind of clarify here, when Bitcoin dominance goes up and the price of Bitcoin goes up, we're supposed to see altcoins pulling back. Right? But instead, we're seeing a tremendous amount of money flowing away from stablecoin, and it's putting us in a position where altcoins are doing very well. So it's kind of contradictory in a lot of ways based on how things are supposed to work. With Bitcoin pumping and Bitcoin dominance increasing, usually we see the inverse here. So that tells me there's a lot of strength and we're reaching our tentative bottom for altcoins. I mentioned that yesterday when I sent out the update to our community. And if you're not familiar with this, obviously make sure you read through my trade alerts. But generally speaking, I was kind of updating these entry levels that we were looking for. All right, we wanted to get into Bitcoin long at 107 to 108K. 3,900 for ETH, 245 for SUI, XRP 235 to 240, and Chainlink 1750. When I was sleeping, of course, these levels were mostly achieved. And when I woke up, jumping into the charts, we see the price pump and all that as if it never happened, right? So this is why, in a lot of ways, you set limit orders for spot bags. If you were trying to leverage trade, be very careful taking those kind of trades. But the common rule of thumb here is that you want to reevaluate Bitcoin before you jump into the trade. So when I got onto the computer, the price is just running, and I don't like to try to catch a falling knife or whatever the inverse of that would be. When the price starts to run too. So general friendly advice for situations like this when the price is pumping, you want to kind of wait for the price to cool down a little bit and catch those dips when those altcoins kind of pull back to local support ranges, which at this point, we're going to try to identify that. So anyways, just some things to kind of be mindful of or think about, and it's never like 100%. But there's more liquidation, of course, stacking up below the price as per usual, as upper liquidation levels are swept. When we look at the 7-day time frame, there's just a little bit left at 113.5, maybe 114. We saw that on the order blocks as well. But from a macro structure, there's a lot more shorts that it could get hit here pretty hard, right? These are the greedy SOBs that have positions still open on a short position, probably from 120 to 120K or like 117, 115,000. The local highs are essentially those places we want to pay attention to. So we'll identify that here in a moment. When we look just quickly at the last 24 hours, we'll see that majority of all local liquidation has been swept. There's a big chunk at 111,000 below the price, so we may see a pivot or a bounce off that level, which appears to be really close or synonymous with our local high range too, just before we broke through that. So that's oftentimes a good place to consider entry. So let's take a look at the backend data and see kind of what's going on here for Bitcoin. There's any outliers here. Nothing really to note here on the larger timeframes for significantly large liquidation levels. Obviously, there's 106 and 105K as potentials, but I think that's less likely now at this point. We're starting to see the average top trader increase their margin on shorts. So we're seeing a lot more shorts entering as the price goes up, probably more likely to get swept here because you got to keep in mind that, with this high volume, there's a good chance that we're seeing more continuation potential. All right. And when we look here too as well, we zoom in, we can see just this little blip here of these $100,000 to $1 million position sizing starting to increase in volume. It's very early to tell, but generally speaking, the whales are becoming more active. It's kind of what the best way to describe it. Now, when it comes to the open interest, liquidation, all this stuff here on the right-hand side, I've kind of zoomed in a little bit to the last 7 days, just to give you perspective that 112.5K is that area of open interest here for us locally, okay? So that basically implies that could be the new support level for us. So we got some confluence at 111 to 112K. What do you know? We identified that yesterday as a tentative resistance level. Now that we've broken through it, we got to presume it'll work as a new bottom. So once more, that short that we took from 111,000 yesterday, or 110.9K, that short is basically, we shorted at that level because we had a lot of confluence on the macro, okay? Now, if we spend the entire next 24 hours above 111,000, that should signify that this reversal is trustworthy, okay? That's kind of the concept there. Once more, I'm specifying larger time frames, not saying that we've broken through this last 15 minutes, we're gonna go long on everything. That's really not the case. Now, scalping, different story altogether, but from holding a position for a longer period of time, you probably wanna wait for that bullish back test if it ever happens, to essentially happen first before you take a trade. Okay, that's kind of the concept. So there's no doubt that you could wait for that to happen and it never happens. There's totally a potential reality, but you're better off waiting for an opportunity that never happens than trying to take a bad one or force a bad one. That's kind of the concept there. And I try to teach that to my community. It's so much easier said than done. I get it. But patience is important. Try not to feel the FOMO too bad. Even though I joked about this with my community too earlier today, that my emoji for today, this is my emoji for today, right? The rolling eyes face. Because literally, I fall asleep, everything looks fine. I wake up, oh great, we got some good opportunities. I go eat, I come back to the charts, and it just totally takes off and nothing's ever, it's not even, the whole entire ship has sailed is the easy way to say it. So anyways, that's just crypto for you, normal, right? Market maker 101. They trick you into this false sense of bearish divergence, and then the price rips out of nowhere. It's just so disgusting. It's almost funny. Anyways, that's the backend data for Bitcoin. Nothing super amazing, but I would say that we're going to be looking for a bullish backtest here of our point of control there at 111,000. That to me seems like a realistic consideration for entry because it's usually a good continuation location oftentimes local highs will be retested as new lows before the price pivots and bounces from there. So all that being said, taking a look here at the daily, just to quickly note, I want to just kind of clarify this here. We're not like super mega bullish all of a sudden because we have a nice candle. So keep this in mind. We still got a lot of resistance above us, specifically that 115.5 to 117.5 range. I have that highlighted kind of in red on the charts here, just because there's a lot of volume above us. Okay, so we're above 1 out of 3 potential resistances for the moment. And this literally just happened. So still premature, still early to say. Obviously this bullish engulfing candle and just kind of that continuation potential is higher because of it. But I think there's a solid chance we're going to see some slowing pressure at 115.5 to 117.5. That's also our 0.5 to 0.618 fib level. Those are common areas of retracement. And we also have, once more, the 20 and the 50-day SMA hanging out right there in that level. So to me, along from 111 to 115 just kind of feels like it would be a good consideration at this point. Obviously, we got to wait for the price pullback to see that happen, and that may not happen. All right. So just know if the price continues to run 115 to 117K, may be a decent consideration for a short. But between now and then, I'd much rather lean towards a long at 111 to 112 versus FOMOing it right now when we're halfway to our target. All right. That's kind of the concept there. Anyways, what are your thoughts? Why don't you comment below? Let's go ahead and take a look at some altcoins next. Quick heads up to our traders, make sure you take full advantage of this Uptober sale here, or rephrase to as our Dumptober sale. Sale ends October 31st. Just want to make sure you're aware there's only a few slots left remaining for our permanent access, and there's also monthly options as well. CryptoCache Premium, day trades, swing trades, and trade setups are all included here, and those are provided to you through Telegram or Discord. Feel free to message me below if you have any questions, of course, but I do recommend you direct message me before so we can make sure that you have any questions, we field that together. All right, folks, so take a quick look here at Ethereum, see kind of what's going on here. We'll start with the backend data, and then we'll do a comparative analysis with a side-by-side on these two coins, see if there's any consideration for long at this point. The general rule of thumb when the prices are running like this, obviously, unless you're scalping or watching it super close, you wait for the price to pull back first. So just try to be patient here, folks. It's easy to want to FOMO in, which can be beneficial, don't get me wrong. You could totally miss the boat, but once more, this is very out of I wouldn't say out of character. This is super common in crypto, but this is kind of an unusual movement here, kind of out of nowhere. There is potential speculation that with gold dumping, we're seeing money flowing into Bitcoin because of that. There's that possibility. I didn't really think about that too much earlier, but I did see something to the effect of that happening earlier with that. So anyways, let's take a look. Let's pull up the right chart here. Let's go with our primary alternative chart here and just take a look at ETH, kind of see where we're at. And once more, we're approaching that resistance range of 4,100. So not proposing you short this, but our local high here is right at 41 or 40.8, 4,080. So that's kind of that level there for us. Needless to say, it's a point of control based on open interest, and there can be some potential for this to work as a resistance for us. But liquidation delta is at 8 billion. That's you don't want to try to short against that kind of buying pressure, right? It's difficult to want to do that. Now, from a liquidation standpoint, there's more propensity for Ethereum to continue higher now that we're at this 4,100 range. So 4,100 to 4,150, there's a big chunk of liquidation there, probably about maybe 10 to 15 billion. And then we got roughly the same amount between 4,200 and 4,300 to be just as a loose estimate. So there's a solid chance that we continue to the 4,100, breaking 4,100. We would progress towards that 41.5 upwards of 42 to 4,300. Okay, so there's just kind of some areas of interest. If you look at the charts too here as well with our fib levels, we can see some confluence there, right? There's that 4,400 level above the price. That's that resistance range for us with that 0.382 fib level. Keep in mind, I'm excluding this outlier here, this significant selling candle that occurred only on the Binance exchange. And since this is a Binance chart, I'm excluding that from our fib levels. In case you're wondering why that looks maybe seems a little off. All that said, our point of control here locally, let's zoom out actually a little bit better just to verify. Ever since we've been in the range of just say 36 to 100 to 5,000, we see the most amount of volume at 4,300. Okay, so once more, reiterating and reaffirming that local shelf. So I think 4,300 seems like a pretty awesome opportunity for a short, or you take a long to that level. Right now, keep in mind, it's not going to just be a perfect straight line. Okay, it'll probably be pretty janky, and you may actually get stopped out a few times depending on how tight or loose you play it. So you want to be careful. But between now and then, If we close above 4,000 today, hypothetically, we get a retest of 4,000, along from 4K to 4,300. Seems like a practical consideration. That would be under the impression Bitcoin pulls back to 110 to 112. Sorry, at 111 to 112, and then runs up to its local resistance as well at 115-ish, right? So those are kind of the concepts there. So when I look at coins like this, I try to kind of see how Bitcoin's performing, and I look at a side-by-side here too. So this is the hourly time frame for ETH on the right, and the left-hand side, same thing for Bitcoin. I don't know if you can see a difference there, but Bitcoin broke through its local high of 111.7 a lot sooner than Ethereum did. Okay, granted, Ethereum's above its local high of 4080. That's that open interest range. But once more, this tells us there's very similar and synonymous behavior between these two coins. Therefore, if you trade it, you just want to make sure you pay attention to Bitcoin. That's kind of the concept. Okay, so that is Ethereum for you in a nutshell. What are your thoughts? Let me know if you differ in opinion on this one here. If you're looking for a new exchange or possibly just want to help support the channel, Bitunix has got you covered. We've been partnered with this exchange for over 2 years. It's been our fan favorite for our community, and the reason why is because they take really good care of you. They offer trading reward bonuses as well as a reduction in fees. Best exchange I would recommend at this point. Link down below for more information. All right, jumping into the Solana chart, let's go ahead and quickly clarify that we are still in a macro descending type of trend. So the daily time frame still is not phenomenal. We got to reclaim that 203 range to be in better position for continuation higher, right? Because once more, there's a distinct chance we either reject off that level first, or if we slowly but surely get over here, we're going to reject off the descending trend line too. All right, those are two potential realities we just got to be mindful of. It doesn't mean it's going to be exact science, and that's only thing that could happen, but there are just some key levels we want to be mindful of. Because once more, folks, when you're trading, you're not looking for these magical indicators that are going to tell you, oh, we got Elliott wave. We're going to look for a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 to an ABCD 3FU, right? None of that really matters too much, in my personal opinion, because those are strictly hypotheticals. Those are patterns, and patterns don't really mean too much in trading if they don't have confluence. So once more, pay more attention to what you see on the charts with key levels that have worked as resistances and descending trend lines. Those are mostly what you're looking for, not some magical Fibonacci retracement level. Even though Fib levels can be beneficial, they're only beneficial if used confirming with other things, right? So I reiterate that a lot in my videos because people come over to my community thinking that they're the bee's knees when it comes to Elliott wave, and they get absolutely destroyed because Elliott wave theorists are always right, because they give you 50 different possible scenarios. So come on, get real. Anyways, Solana, back to Solana here. Open interest, it's pretty straightforward. We're above 191 to 193. That's that local area that we can see kind of as a concentration. That should work as a new low. So as I mentioned previously, that's our resistance range. Now that we've broken through that, and we hold that range for just say the next 24 hours, there's a solid chance we're going to continue higher to push or to retest that 203 range. So just know that there's still a lot of resistance above Solana, specifically 198 to 203. Those are numbers we talked about previously, but liquidation delta is high. We're looking at 1.5 billion in longs. There is a little bit of liquidation left at 200. So my speculation is Solana runs a little bit further to the 200 to 203 range and rejects. That's a potential reality for us based on liquidation. But when we look at the charts here, from a daily time frame, ever since we've been in this range, we see the most amount of volume at 203, 204, okay? So once more, that just kind of reaffirms and reiterates resistance at 200. Keep that psychological resistance in mind. 200 is going to work as an initial shelf for us. So once more, this is very similar. We're seeing this type of pattern on most coins. And what I mean by pattern is just that there's local highs and local lows we're paying attention to, right? Not any magical numbers. So if Bitcoin pulls back to 111,000, just say, for example, and Solana holds 192, its local high here, then there would be a decent chance that we could take a long from 192 to 203 and have some safety in that regard, right? We're seeing this nice little range. So once more, Ethereum, we already identified its range. If it pulls back to that specific level, we can take a long to that next one, 44,000 to 4,300. Bitcoin, 111,000 to 115K. Hypothetically, 185 to 190 as just a rough estimate here for Solana, getting in this range here for a nice little push to that 198 to 200 range. Okay, so once more, those are just kind of the ranges I like to work within. Let's double check. See here, Solana is performing very similar to Bitcoin, a little stronger to the downside. So be mindful if Bitcoin does pull back, Solana probably was going to pull back a little bit harder. There's a lot of fair value gaps starting to form on the charts too. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see some of those ranges get filled here, okay? So just be aware of that. This is not a perfect scenario, okay? Even though it seems like amazing. It always looks amazing at first. All right, let's go ahead and jump into the SUI chart and kind of see where we're at here. SUI is, performing well. It wicked down to 247. My alert at 245 never triggered. It wouldn't have mattered. I was sleeping anyways, of course, as per usual. But that is kind of, the area of confluence. Once more, 245 is that macro support based on previous lows. The local lows that the price is just unwilling to go below that. Okay, so too many people feel like 245 is a good value and they're protecting that level. Now, when we look at open interest, a lot of open interest below the price. Okay, so that kind of reinforces support at 260, 255, and 250. All right, liquidation delta is still remaining bullish. So this coin is not a coin you want to short. I mentioned that yesterday. I think I might have reiterated that almost too much because once again, there's a lot of liquidation above the price. Even though there is some below, of course, we're much closer to the upper range, right? So I think when we break through 270, we could very well see a run towards $3 with that super heavy concentration at 295. So this coin looks like a very good opportunity to be taking a long versus taking a short. I don't recommend shorting this coin, even though it's probably going to pull back on the short term here with Bitcoin. There's a solid chance that it just continues much higher here now that we've kind of broken through that local high. So let's talk about that. 4-hour time frame, just to give you some perspective, 265 is that local high. We're consolidating so far just above that price range. Granted, this is less than an hour's worth of price action, of course, because this new candle just formed 11 minutes ago, but the whole concept here that I like to kind of reaffirm is that we've broken our descending trend line. We have bullishly backtested our descending trend, which is generally a favorable sign, minus the point of control here locally at 270. We're going to be in a position where the price should continue to run if we get past that level. So I think that once again, the 270 to $3 range is that prime opportunity for a long versus a short consideration. If you miss your boat and we get closer, we wake up tomorrow, we're close to $3, maybe a short at $3 would be appropriate because there's so much liquidation that would have been swept at that point. So once more, those are just kind of things I like to look for, but nothing too outrageous here. Looks like SUI is pretty darn close to the same kind of price action. The only thing I would emphasize being careful with is we're pretty well overextended here. We got a lot of value below the price. There's a good chance we do pull back on the short term. So I would not want to get in right now. I would consider averaging in if you're going to take a trade with this coin. Don't just go all in at 267. I think that's a bad idea. Main reason why we haven't broken officially through our local high here, and that's generally unfavorable. It shows that there's weakness compared with Bitcoin, at least some weakness, even though the coin can still look very strong versus that. And then just the whole aspect here of just trying to buy the top, I don't know, just it doesn't resonate well with me, right? Bitcoin, once again, hitting its overextended state, add an 8 on TD sequential. We saw a 9 just before the price took off. I think we're in good shape here to expect Bitcoin to pull back to its local high range. I think that 111 to 112K makes perfect sense. I hope I'm wrong and the price keeps going higher, though. Honestly, I know that that's going to be beneficial for most people, so that's why I say that. However, at this point, SUI is it's pulling back a lot harder than Bitcoin when it does. So just please be mindful. This coin is extremely volatile. It's almost like gambling when you're trading it right now. Quick heads up to our traders, make sure you take full advantage of our Dumptober sale going on until the end of the month. We have a few slots left remaining. Our most popular feature here is our permanent access. Make sure you take advantage of this, of course, if you want monthly subscriptions as well. That's also a good feature for you. But the main concept here is that you're provided with swing trades, day trades, and my trade setups to let you know specifically why I take the trades that I take in the first place. Everything is explained, as well as a trading university too. Be sure to check it out. If you have any questions, comment below, or more importantly, just reach out to me direct with the contact information in the comments. All right, let's move on to XRP and C. XRP, it's not the greatest comparative chart, but you can see though that XRP was ramping up a lot higher than Bitcoin was when it was hitting this level here. Okay, so even though it's barely been able to retest that 255 range, it performed very well prior to that, and that's definitely something. All right. Anyways, we don't trade on something or constellation, do we? Let's take a look on the back end and see if there's anything else that might be confirming. Because when I do recall looking at this coin, I was wanting to get in between 235 and 240. I don't think the price even came down as low as 240. I think it was like 241 and some change. So congrats to those who got in on that. But if we look at the last 7 days of open interest, it's all over the place. This coin has so much sporadic open interest. It's almost humorous. In other words, more of that below the price is a good thing. It's a simple way to understand it. There's just a lot of interest below the price, but it's not like all accumulated at one place. So that's kind of the good thing about it, I guess. You could say that we have more of a support range than a support level. But once more, 235 to 240 is that heavy lower area, and 245 is becoming that next secondary support for us. All that said, we look at a liquidation delta. It's now back in the green at 300 million. Came down almost to break even. There's a little bit of liquidation left at 260 based on the last 7 days liquidation. So take a look here. Let's go ahead and double check the regular chart and kind of see where we're at. I like to start with the macro daily time frame, just give you some perspective because I want to drive this home. We're entering a pretty solid resistance range. All right. Now there's two resistance ranges for this coin. The first one, of course, being the current range, and the second one is this upper area here too. So basically, when you look at these ranges here, I just kind of want to drive this home so you understand a little more specifically what they are and why they are. All right. So this local range, first of all, was a previous high range of 255. That's that level where we spent a lot of time before we broke out. All right. So that's going to work as a new resistance range for us, not just because of that, but also because we're having trouble getting back up above our local high of 260. All that said, we combine that with the previous low range. In other words, when we spent a tremendous amount of time in the $3 range, we could not seem to surpass 275. Right? 275 was that brick wall. Eventually, that gave way, of course, because of what happened roughly, 10, 11 days ago with that ridiculous dump, that catastrophic failure, you could say, that was 10x of COVID's, downtrend for liquidation. That essentially hit the old reset button. So we haven't even retested 275 yet, but I can tell you for a fact right now, if we see 275 tomorrow, I'm going to short that. And the main reason why is because it's a previous resistance previous support level that'll be initially retested as a new high, okay? And almost I think 95% of the time, you're going to see those previous levels retested bearishly, okay? At least in this regard, the way that it's moving. So all that said, if we get past 255, try not to be one of those stupid, ridiculous, emotional moon boys. Use logic for a change. Be an actual, I don't want to say real person because a real person is emotional, but don't be a real person, perhaps. Stop being so emotional and, trade with some logic here for a change, right? And logic is telling us we got a lot of resistance above us and that there's a distinct probability we're not going to just moonshot here from moving forward. Very few coins will do that, honestly, unless there's some kind of magnificent fundamental catalyst. And if you search for XRP, you'll see 5 billion different things that may happen and should happen because these are all a bunch of sellouts, right? Don't be a sellout. Don't do that. From a technical standpoint, this coin doesn't have anything magnificent about it, right? It's still in a macro descending trend line like all the rest. We have a lot of moving averages above the price too, also kind of averaging themselves in between 260 and 275. So once more reinforcing that significant resistance range above us. So if you're going to consider a long on this coin, there's nothing wrong with that. Just don't be a person that's trying to take a long to $5. That's just never going to happen. In fact, if you want something kind of funny to laugh at, jump on into our stupid thumbnails channel within our within our Discord, and you'll see there's generally a lot of XRP enthusiasts that post ridiculous stuff. I'm not saying they're in our community; they're more so the realistic, logical thinkers. But they're all just kind of crazy, and honestly, it's just so dumb. It's insane to me that that's actually a real thing. Anyways, from a technical standpoint, though, we've already established the macro structure: 255 local resistance, 275 to 270 is that secondary resistance range. So if we do break free from this range here, I think the 270, 275 seems practical. It's nothing that crazy. But when we look at all the 4-hour time frames here, this is very synonymous with a lot of coins right now. We saw a nice little bounce off 50 in the RSI. Money flow index is higher than the RSI itself. That shows sustainability and likelihood of continuation further up. Okay. So I'm not bearish on this coin at all. I just like to talk sense into people that are just ridiculous. And I just wish that there's something that could be done about all the other moon boy idiots. Anyways, those are my thoughts. What are yours? The XRP, I'm still moderately bullish on the short term here. It has all the signs that most of the coins we're looking at have, that it should continue higher. I just don't think it's worthwhile taking along into the local resistance and the macro resistance range, just because Bitcoin is having a good day. That's just not really a good consideration. Let's quickly look here once more. We've already identified this. XRP did rally back pretty fast, pretty good, right? But I'm expecting a double top or a rejection here soon, especially once Bitcoin starts to taper off. I think we're going to see XRP pull back probably to the 240 to 245 range. And at that point, that would be a good consideration for a long. All right. I think it's still premature to get into a long right now. I don't like taking breakout trades. And if I do, they come with a lot more confluence than this coin has. All right. Cool. All right. Thanks again for watching. Hope you have a great rest of your day. We'll see you in the next one. Take care of yourself out there. Bye-bye.